Hey everyone, and welcome to Scouting the League. Really excited to jump into our conversation with Director of Football Ops and Player Personnel for the Shriners Children's East-West Bowl, Eric Galko. Yes, a new name. We will talk about that. We will talk about schedule changes, pro guys going back to college, positions of note, and so much more. A really fun one, as it always is with Eric. So make sure you stick around for this one. Joined today, as always, by Neil Stratton. He is at Inside the League, InsideTheLeague.com as well. I am Roderick David. For all I do, check out RSAFootball.com or hit me up on Twitter over at RightStepADV. If you are a scout in the NFL, in the college ranks, or you want to be in one of those two spots, make sure you head over to thescoutingcommunity.com. This will give you some resources, answer some questions, give you some tools, answers that you need to make sure you are at the top of your game in any of those capacities, better than any class, any course that you can get out there. Again, well worth your money, your time. Let's get together and talk. Thescoutingcommunity.com is a spot for that. And if you're an agent, if you're a player, if you're a school, if you are anybody out there in the football world that would like a scouting report done, go to rightstepscouting.com. That is my new website that will have one-liners, full evals, video reports, no matter what it is in the evaluation game. Get that report done over at rightstepscouting.com. Really cool spot where all your reports will be able to be housed, and you'll get really professional, nicely done things there. RightStepScouting.com is a spot for that. And make sure you go check out our partners over at BlueMaca.com as well. Use code Scouting20 while you are there to get a little discount on that order, as well as let them know we sent you. The insoles that will upgrade every pair of shoes you have, whether you're on the field, on the sidelines, walking up and down, or you just need to maybe walk the golf course in a little bit more comfortable shoes. BlueMaca.com has the answer for you. You, again, use that code Scouting20 at checkout to let them know we sent you. Eric Galko, today's guest, is at Eric Galko. Also follow ShrinersBowl.com on Twitter to make sure you keep up with everything, whether it's that top 1,000 we talk about, any of their upcoming announcements. You will want to follow both Eric and Shriners Bowl. As we get into the season, we are going to keep bringing you what you need to know and perhaps what you haven't thought about from across the NFL and college football landscape. Some of that here today with Eric, so let's go ahead and jump in. Well, excited to get back in here as we continue our march towards the 2027 NFL Draft and the final All-Star game in the cycle come 2027. It is going to be the no longer the East-West Shrine Bowl. We're going to talk about that, the Shriners Children's East-West Bowl, with Director of Football Ops and Player Personnel, Eric Galko. Eric, welcome back to Scouting the League.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Let's do it. Where the season starts. Week 0 is coming up. This is it.
Week 0, another one of those things in college football that could be eliminated. It's week 1. It's the first week of the year. Why we still call it weeks? Again,
preaching to the choir.
We could have like 4 or 5 soapboxes before we even started the actual content we talked about, but that's probably episodes and people don't want to hear about it. It's week 1, it's week 0, whatever. We got real games starting, and that's what I say. Real football. Again, I think, Eric, you're probably in the same boat. Neil, certainly me. I'm ready for some fresh film. Agents, scouts, everybody's ready for some fresh film. Obviously, scouts have been out at practice. Eric, you've probably been to some camps, seen some guys. We're all excited. We're ready for that. How is everything for what is now the Shriners Children's East-West Bowl? How is everything going right now?
Yeah, we're excited. And you kind of forget almost every year of like what new film is, right? Because it's been like 8 months of like just watching the other guys. And then you just talk about these guys. And at least for our staff, we talk about them ad nauseum and this guy's can do this. And then the second week 0, week 1 happens. You're like, you don't want to ever forget the old stuff because we have a good process that do as well, but you can't help yourself. You're like, thank effing God we have TCU North Carolina this weekend. I can't wait to watch Stanford, Hawaii for the second straight year at 10 o'clock at night too. I think like it kind of hit me actually like this past weekend being like next week's the week. And we're talking to our staff about kind of preseason process. And I think it's, important scouting wise to not forget the past and just be so in the moment. But for us, like it kind of reminds you how important the live film and being there as well too. We've had our staff go across the country. We lost one of our staff members to a school. It's a good problem to have too. So we've had a lot of our staff out there in the world this summer, and we're excited for the season to start.
Yeah, no question. Well, again, it's going to be another year for you. How many years is this running East-West?
I think it's my 5th. I think it's the 5th year.
So again,
crazy.
Every year brings new changes, new challenges. One of them that really doesn't change anything, but maybe the appearance and, becomes a new language to say no longer the East West Shrine Bowl, but now the Shriners Children's East West Bowl. It can all be found at Shriners Bowl on Twitter. Talk about that name change.
Yeah.
Does it change anything? Oh, are you guys operating at just business as usual?
Yeah, number one, I got to change if you're on video here, my helmet and my jersey in the background here. But largely, what we found, and I think it's really important to always remember that us in the football industry think of it as the Shrine Bowl or the East West or whatever else. But this event, the real purpose of it is for Shriners Children's. And our team has kind of learned and realized that people didn't always make that connection every time when looking at the event as well, too. And Shriners Children's does a lot of other events and other sports, golf, women's basketball, college basketball, golf, right? And the Shriners Children's name is always very front and center, and people recognize it right away and kind of have that connective tissue so people can appreciate what Shriners Children's does in the sports industry and all over the industry. And really, we've learned that, hey, the shrine aspect wasn't really resonating as well, too. And it was kind of time. We're 102 years this year, which is so crazy. Only the Rose Bowl is older than the Shriners Children's East West Bowl. It was probably overdue for a name upgrade as well, too. So again, you want to call it the Shrine Bowl, the East West, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But moving forward, we want to make sure people really associate Shriners Children's and the great work they do nationally and internationally with the event.
Yeah, Eric, for old guys like me, I'm still getting used to Shrine Bowl over Shrine Game. So
Yep.
Forgive me if I say Shrine Game sometime today. But it's not the only big change for the game. There's also schedule change. And again, for old timers like myself, you're used to going to Dallas and then going to Mobile. It's going to be a flip this year. How does that change things? Isn't it an advantage to have the last game?
I would say, for one, the change is an important word. For us, there's no change, right? I think the Reese's or Canadian Senior Bowl has moved a week earlier for their schedule of the season as well, too. So we didn't change anything at all. I've had a lot of questions like, oh, why are you guys here? Like, we didn't move. We're always going to be the Thursday before of Pro Bowl week. It's what our schedule has always kind of been the last 5-6 years now. So we haven't really changed. I will say, like, I hope there isn't. I really have been passionate about from the Shriners Children's East West Bowl, get my name right, about really having a great player experience and taking care of them and being something that, like, I think if you ask any player from the last 5 years that went to our event, I feel confident they would tell you, like, they were taken care of health-wise, sleep-wise, recovery-wise, facility-wise. And you should pick an event for NFL teams to see you for that reason, not because of necessarily history or because someone told me I should do it or I was getting pressure to do it or whatever else. Pick it for the right reasons. And if that's the Hula Bowl, if that's the American Bowl who do a great job, great. Go there instead. That's your choice. I can really respect that. So the time of the calendar shouldn't really matter at all. But maybe it does for some people. And if some people like that, I'm not going to say no, you're wrong, right? But I think in general, I hope players and agents that maybe listen to this are saying, hey, you should do whatever best for you in your one draft process in that calendar year. And I hope you're picking that for the right reasons, which is someone you can trust to take care of your players, someone that as a player, you're going to be taking care of while you're there, and really be the best to perform in front of NFL teams on and off the field. So the date shouldn't matter. Hopefully the event and what we do at Shriners Children's does.
Yeah, no question. Again, no Mardi Gras to deal with in Texas. Maybe over on the coast. I don't know. Maybe Neil throws a Mardi Gras party down in Houston. I don't know. I don't ask those questions of Neil. But again, from the scheduling standpoint, an extra week could make a difference. When you're talking about some of these guys that are playing, again, we'll talk about another soapbox, in a college football playoff that is way too late, an extra week could be big. Again, you talked about, players doing what's right. Again, it's been one of Drew's messages. That's always been one of your messages. I think any All-Star game, any good agent, any good NFL team that wants information on these guys, like, it comes down to making good decisions about your future. And health is such a huge part of that. Do you think that health question with one extra week could be, tipping the scales for guys this year? Is that something you guys are talking about?
Yeah, the answer is probably yes, right? They'll have some impact as well. Again, I stand by that maybe it necessarily shouldn't from a general event standpoint. I would tell you guys, hey, I don't think guys playing the national championship game with the date that it is should play in an all-star game. If they want to come to the Shriners Children's East West Bowl and interview, we'd love to have them. I think the interviews are really, really important. I've always stood by that. I believe that's the case in a big, big way. It's a huge passion of mine if I can't say that enough times. But I'd be as blunt to say that. Now, we had players in the national championship game 2 years ago, Mitchell Evans and Jordan Clark, who practiced for a day or two. They were happy they did it. They got through it. They were certainly banged up. They definitely left early when no one was mad at that. that was their decision. And if a player wants to really make that decision, they can, if they really believe in it. But again, if I'm going to be a player health and wellness advocate, I also want to speak to like what I think is best for them as well too. I think for games before the Shriner Children's East West Bowl, those guys playing in the quarterfinals or the semifinals, that's going to be a quick turnaround. And that's a big reason why, again, if I'm going to say that our event should be health and wellness player focused, I never make a player practice or play in the game if they don't feel healthy to do it. When you're late in the playoffs, that's going to be more and more likely to. So I hope agents take advantage of the draft process in every way they should. All-star games, on and off the field, the combine. Guys should just skip out on those things because of the playoff. But I think you have to be really smart about it. And it's, what is the event going to offer? And also, when is that event happening? Do I have enough time to recover? So to be blunt, I don't think that guys playing the national championship game should in practice at an all-star game, but certainly other guys kind of play it by ear a little bit. It's a delicate process.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, Eric, you talked about it again at the beginning, the Shriners game, Shriners Children's. Again, it's really about those kids. And again, getting the players in, but for NFL teams, again, getting their scouts down there to see interviews, to see some of these guys. Again, you talked about cross-checkers, seeing player in person. That had become one of the challenges with East West and Senior Bowl, almost crossing over time. Is like, hey, we've got to decide where to send guys, split time, only, short time at either one. Have you gotten any feedback from NFL teams? How hey, we're excited. We can send full staffs to both spots this year and not have to worry and pick and choose and, divide guys up.
I think teams have mostly figured out the best way to do it. And really the change was in the past, a decade ago, right, when they were a week, Saturday, it was have your scouts go here, then go home for a few days, and then go back on the road and then come home for a few days. Now you can kind of have a long 6-day week and get both of them done as well too. Same's going to happen this year as well, right? Guys can go to Mobile, fly into there, do what they do there as well too, and then fly to beautiful sunny Dallas and be there all week long for the Shrine Bowl as well too. So like I think it's the same, it's different change in kind of philosophies a little bit and how teams want to operate that, but by and large, we've never had a problem with attendance at our event the last 5 years. We've had GMs increase because of better talent, not because of change in schedule. And thankfully, last year and this year, we're going to have every GM that goes to college all-star games will be at the Shriner Children's East West Bowl. We'll have probably 1,000 NFL personnel, including league office there. So it'll be well attended for, I'm sure, both events too. And I love it. I again, if we want to be competitive between different games, I want people to see both and experience both. And I want to make sure scouts and NFL teams can do that.
Yeah.
Eric, you mentioned sunny Dallas, and for those in Texas, there's no quarrel with the amount of sun we're getting right now. Okay.
Yes.
But you didn't get quite as much sun last year. How did the winter storm that hit affect last year's game? How does it affect games going forward? Is it something that even matters? It was such a fluke,
We had every practice in our game last year. So nothing. What do you mean? What's the problem? No, certainly was a challenge for people as well too. And I think more importantly, besides going to different all-star games, like NFL scouts, their time is too valuable in January, February, March to not be able to just be trapped somewhere without productive work going on. And I can appreciate that. As someone who travels, I work 18-hour days when I travel because I hate being away from home. If I'm going to go out there, I'm going to work. Being trapped home would be terrible. So thankfully last year it was a, once in a decade, once in a 2-decade, once in a lifetime ice storm in Dallas. And we still got all of our practices. All the practice film was there too. By and large, I think outside of one team, every team got their full interview allotment done and our core interview time as well too. So I'm proud of the way that our team stepped up operationally. The city of Dallas and Frisco, the Dallas Cowboys, really helped us and stepped up to have a full week of practice well too. And knock on wood, that won't happen. One of the benefits again is that we're indoors. Right, as an event, we're one of the few indoor facilities. This year we'll be at AT&T Stadium all week long indoors. So it's hard to kind of worry about the weather too much as long as we can get to the facility. And just like a year ago, this year we can walk to our facility. It's very close by to AT&T Stadium where our hotel is this year. So we're not going to miss any practice this year no matter what the storm is outside. And being indoors is certainly a huge benefit for us.
Sure.
Yeah, no question. Again, it was one of the fun things. I was sitting at home last year trying to talk to a few people who were, stuck somewhere or trying to get there. That was several people trying to, get down there for all-star game practices and, trying to figure all that out. But again, going to be an outstanding game. We're going to have beautiful weather this year, no question about it. And again, people can probably walk in shorts. They'll be complaining about the heat this year and walk over to the stadium and flip flop. So again, as we keep talking about changes, there's this ruling that came down last week where we have guys that are currently in college preseason camps. Again, soapbox, set it aside. they're heading back to school. We got guys, entering from the Cleveland Browns to the transfer portal and wherever after that. Now, there's going to be a group of players, probably a one-off with this court ruling, but we could have a decent collection of players that are going to potentially be on these lists for all-star games. Has this been something you've thought about, talked about with the staff, thought about from a Shriners standpoint? Like, hey, if this guy's gone through the process already and been with an NFL camp, is this a player that's going to be down in Texas for us?
So a couple things. One, this is such a mess for college and NFL teams. I think all-star game wise, we're probably the low on the list of actually figuring what this means. We're going to watch these guys if they're in school again. These guys are eligible to play in all-star games. That's going to be up to the NFL league office to determine those things. If these guys are considered like reserve retired or reserve, not on roster, and these teams kind of keep their rights if they sign them or drafted them, or are they going to be in the draft process for 2027? I'll let the NFL league office and the great team there, Ken Fiore and his team, kind of sort through that. But we'll be watching them. And I think there'll be more than a couple, but not more than 25, 30 that really make a huge, huge difference in the college football season this year as well, too. And we're going to, of course, consider them and talk to them. I've talked to many of their agents. I've talked to some of these guys who are considering going back to camp and like, hey, what should we do? And again, if I'm going to be genuine, be a player advocate and a player supporter, hey, if this ruling comes down and a player can better himself by doing this, let's be mad at the system and not these players, right? Let's not give Daquan Wright negative feedback. He's taking advantage of an opportunity for him and his family and his legacy as a player, right? He should do that and blame the system, blame Mark Emmert, former NCAA president, for not fixing this 2 decades ago, not Daquan Wright. So I think for those players, they should be treated with, I think, respect and taking advantage of the opportunity. I can appreciate that. And I hope these guys have great years. It'd be a great story if this ruling comes down and a player who missed an all-star game a year ago, like Daquan Wright, who was hurt, couldn't do the whole draft process. This ruling is a saving grace when he goes to LSU and has a great season, ends up being a draft pick. I think that'd be a great story and resolution of why this happens, as opposed to, why the NCAA maybe have messed this up either. So we'll be, of course, considering them. We'll follow the NFL league office's ruling on if they're eligible, what that process looks like, and we'll be watching them. They're back on our list. They weren't on the Shrine Bowl 1000 a month ago for obvious reasons, but they're certainly on our watch list now.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's the right way. Again, every all-star game, it should be there. Again, what's best for the players in this process. And again, it's hard to blame the players for, again, information they didn't have, that they didn't know, that was out there. And again, the NCAA it's easy to blame the NCAA. I guess we'll just leave it at that. Neil, what are your thoughts on that? Have you heard anything, again, from agents, from anybody in the industry that you're talking to?
Right now, I have to admit I haven't been following it. It's the speed of change right now is such that every time you get to think what's coming, suddenly everything gets. I didn't get included in the wrap last week, but I think the NCAA got an injunction against the original group of 16 players and I haven't had a chance to follow up and see kind of where we stand with all that stuff. So no, I don't, and I don't even know that I have an opinion on it yet. I mean, you want to be pro player, but you also kind of want to be pro sanity. And I think at some point we have to have guidelines and some kind of rules. If you don't, then, we've got rules for the game. Why wouldn't we have rules for what happens afterwards?
I'll give you a spoiler alert, Neil. On that note, for everybody, change is not going to come anytime too soon, I don't believe. From my talking with people at the NCAA and people in the industry, I think this is going to be a mess for a little while longer. And I always believe, I try to have a lens of a very clear theme, and players are not to blame here. I think maybe Inside the League needs to hire a lawyer. Lawyers are running college football right now too. So if you have any good ideas for lawyers, I'm sure Darren Heiner's a little busy, but outside of him, find somebody, because I think the law is going to play a big role in college sports for a little while longer, unfortunately.
I don't want to Roger keeps saying, let's set our soapboxes aside. It's really hard to do that. Right now, we've got regulation by litigation, and that means everything is topsy-turvy and nothing is in pen, everything is in pencil. And that's a really frustrating way to live. All right, so Eric, we've talked. I guess the theme so far has been about changes. I'd like to talk more about what AT&T Stadium is going to do for you. How was that initiated? What will be the benefit there? I mean, I don't think anyone, and I'm not blowing smoke here, I don't think anyone has had any quarrel with the level of facilities that you had at Jerry World and thereabouts. AT&T Stadium is obviously, you can't complain about that either. But how is it better? How is it different? How will it be different?
I think it's 1A or 1B best facility in the country for football. college or NFL in terms of like resources, field, setup, staff, which is so important for these kind of things. People don't really appreciate that, but like the flexibility of their staff. They've had FIFA games there. They've had great events there as well too. So it's going to be a huge, huge benefit. Our hotel is obviously moving right next door to AT&T Stadium as well too. So NFL personnel who are there, there's hotels in the area, which NFL teams are already starting to book. Everyone can walk over to practice indoors. And again, being at an NFL facility, I've always told, when I first talked to the Shriners Children's Board about joining 5 years ago, one of my really requirements was NFL facilities. If we're going to tell people that we're going to have a best in class experience and help these players, I don't think players should be practicing at mediocre fields or outdoors for these events if they're going to show NFL teams who they are. I just never believed that. I don't want to have that, and we haven't had that in my 5 years. Being at AT&T Stadium is A, the best field you possibly ask for. B, it's going to be really beneficial for our players to be taken care of from a soup to nuts at an NFL facility. And I think one of the really cool things, and I've always viewed the college all-star games as being that doorway to the NFL, right? You're still wearing your college helmet. But you're not a college player anymore. You're not an NFL player yet, but you're talking NFL teams. That's clearly where you're going to some degree, whether you're drafted first overall, whether you're a first-round pick, or whether you're a PFA. And it's that cool doorway. And I think that the all-star games, not just being a job interview, but also an experience, has always been important to me too. And like watching these guys walk in with NFL teams there, and the nerves, and they walk in, they just see Jerry World. They see 18 say, like, I could play here one day. And Malachi Lawrence did, right? It's a really cool moment that I think as great as the Frisco location for the Cowboys practice facility was incredible, I think that the real AT&T experience is special for these guys. So we've seen it on game day. We saw it when we were in Vegas at their facility and stadium as well, too. There's a different level of, I think, appreciation these players really have in the experience. And that's why I think and for NFL teams, hey, full access on the sidelines, boxes to utilize, stands, like it's going to be obviously a great experience. They are all indoors, all in ideal conditions, no matter what the weather is outside. Not practicing outdoors is super important to me. I think it's going to be a great experience for NFL teams, for agents, for media covering the event, and then of course for our players. There's not a single All-Star game in history that's had a better facility than AT&T Stadium, and I can stand by that pretty confidently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, again, you mentioned those players. The Shriners 1,000 players have been out for a little bit now, and it's a nice list. And one of the things is we've seen the shift, the change is, again, if you're at a G5 school, if you're at an FCS school, you may not be staying there a long time. But again, with this 1,000 list, you've got a lot of smaller schools. So again, a lot of G5, a lot of FCS. Again, schools that may not be on top 300s or may ultimately not end up in this All-Star game bats. But talk about your top 1,000. Talk about getting there, your great scouting team that you have out there. Again, kind of putting this list together, and then we'll jump in on a few of these positions.
Yeah, people always ask 1,000. Why 1,000? First off, it's a nice round number. I think it sounds good as part of it, right? Branding, as you guys well know, but also because you guys are well aware of NFS and Blesto, and their lists end up being a grade about 1,000 guys, right? Each of them. And I really wanted this to be, and thankfully it's been super humbling the last 3-4 years to have NFL teams tell me, like, one of the first things their scout assistants do in the summer before camp is put the 1,000 list in their database. That shows NFL teams really trust what we do. And I think it's probably most teams at this point, which I appreciate. And that's kind of the goal for people, agents, media, as well as NFL teams. Hey, you shouldn't have the NFS and Blesto list. I'll put that aside. That shouldn't be public information for the NFL teams to only have. But you can use us as a starting point to say, hey, when you're watching University of Maryland, these are the guys you should really be looking at, et cetera, too. And that's what I hope it really serves as. It does for our team. We kind of go back to that list all the time to remind ourselves who we're missing. When a guy impresses that's not on that list, we kind of ask why. Did we just miss him in the summer? Has he drastically changed? What does that mean? So it means a lot to us. Obviously, we have the full grade. It's not just a list too, but really important for our staff to kind of have that foundation to appreciate the work you do in the preseason, right? Not show up week 1 and forget that all and write a whole new report. Really important for us to have. And you mentioned our staff. I mean, hey guys, I'm probably a little bit behind on film. I feel that every single year going into the year, right? I could have watched more and more guys. When you've got 2 former NFL GMs on our team, Tom Gamble and Rand Carthon, who I can lean on for experience, over 100 years of collective NFL experience, a great mix of former NFL people, great young scouts that we'll probably lose pretty quickly. We lost Alex Brown, who I've known for a long time. He was with us for just this offseason, got let by the Falcons, and then boom, Kentucky picks him up as their assistant GM. Hopefully a testament to how damn talented our staff is. Having that much staff around you in my position, you still got to do the work. You still feel anxious that you never watch enough film. But no doubt I can be a little bit rest easy at night knowing like, hey, I can keep doing it as little as I want to and really defer to our staff as well too. So they're a huge reason why we've had an increase in draft picks every single year for the last 5 years.
3 guys in the top 51 Eric, that's really impressive, as well as a first rounder.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that having that staff is a big assist
Yeah.
to you, and I can't argue with that. But how specifically? How do you break things up? I think you've got 18 guys now, at least on the what y'all published the other day.
Yep.
I used to, when I ran All-Star games, I felt like I was reinventing the wheel. Obviously, y'all are getting results from it. How are you using those 18 people to? I mean, I guess how the layers work, how the areas work, as much detail as you can get into there.
Yeah. The biggest thing I care about is perspective, and making sure that we can have layers of perspective on our staff, and having, our scouts covered by conference. So we've got a layer of conference scouts, right? It's easy because that way you can say, hey, it's hard sometimes to know if that Big Ten receiver is better than the SEC guy, but you can stack within your conference and your area really well. I think keeping that kind of area philosophy for us conference, because we're not doing as much traveling as area scouts are, is easier for us to track. It saves time on watching film as well too. We've got a layer of conference scouts that do that constantly, and they also have FCS responsibilities on our staff. I ask our staff to do a lot. We don't just watch guys just for Shrine Bowl or not. It's, hey, I watch everybody in your conference because you don't know who's going to emerge. And we've got 7,000 players written up in the country right now, with full reports, background, grades, all that kind of stuff. And that's important for our staff to have organized, because I believe in that perspective. You can't just kind of moonlight in and watch a guy. Like, the best scouts in the NFL can do that, right? I can name some scouts who can walk into a room and watch some film and tell you who the best guys are. That's a skill that very few people have. Our scouts need to watch the whole country and allow myself and my director, Riley Bymaster, to help distill what they're collecting and watch the right guys as well too. We've got a layer of cross-check scouts. Shane Coughlin, who's been with me for a long time, worked for the Dolphins before, does a great job of kind of collecting all what the scouts are saying and watching the right guys, letting me know who to cross-check. We have cross-checks meetings every week with our cross-check staff. And I think I'll end on saying, our big philosophy that I've kind of really put forward the last couple years is what I call no ego scouting, which is, hey, if you're wrong, just get the grade right? Don't matriculate. You guys probably know, right? You have a guy here as a late round pick, and then he's playing well, and it's a mid round pick. You kind of go up slowly every year too. Hey, if you made a mistake or the guy is different now, change it drastically. Hey, if you were wrong on a player, admit it and move forward as well. And that's really treated us well, to not, labor on guys that maybe we were wrong on the preseason, or maybe have a good reason why guys should be bumped up quite a bit too. And that kind of real honest feedback loop that we have with our area scouts and our cross-check scouts. Again, a lot of people on staff to manage, but it really allows us to find the right guys that are really good early, myself to reach out to the school, maybe the player individually or the agent, saying, hey, we like your player a lot too. And that allows me to be more efficient and spreading the good word about why Toronto Children's East West Bowl is a great event.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. Again, taking that ego out of it. Again, there's been plenty of really good players that have made big jumps. And that's what you want every one of these players to do. And again, in today's landscape with, again, the portal, finding a better situation, moving up, getting different pieces around you, that's all a big part of it. And again, biting the bullet and saying, hey, this is why I was wrong and this is what he is now. Again, we've seen that certainly. I remember being in the draft room, a young man named Joe Burrow went from like a 5th or 6th to, hey, this guy's going to be number 1 overall. Like, can we justify that? What's the reasons? How did it happen? Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's easy to say that now. I'm not trying to act like we're all low ego. We all have an ego, right? I'm not saying I don't have an ego either, but it's really impressive when I have our scouts to say, hey, we were low on Malachi Lawrence. Like, we had him in October as a guy that could be a 1st, 2nd round pick. And I told the scout, you're nuts. What are you talking about? You're wrong. And the next week, the scouts did a great job. You know how that goes, right? Hey, you got to keep saying it over and over again sometimes to have stubborn people like me kind of hear the difference, and kept saying it over and over again. And we invited him early. Me and Malachi had a relationship, and, he was the Shrine Bowl all year last year. And I think it's really important for our staff to know when to push buttons and to be really powerful, and also say, hey, I was wrong before. Let me hear you out as too. And it's a hard thing to say. It's easy to say. It's really hard to do. And I'm really proud of the fact that all of our scouts kind of take that under their wing. They can be confident, but also no ego. And it's treated us pretty well in terms of getting guys right early and being successful. And again, it's a huge reason why those late day 3 picks that we nail every year, the PFAs that'll make rosters, we feel great about, because we're doing the work and being no ego early on, that we can be like, hey, we've thought this all through. We're not putting biases. We're putting bias aside and picking the right players as early as possible.
Yeah.
Eric, y'all have always had a good relationship with Canada, and historically have invited a couple players from there. But the game is becoming increasingly more international. Is there a time when we're going to see players maybe from Africa, from other countries, on Shrine Bowl East West Bowl rosters and participating alongside American players?
I love it. To be candid, I've been a huge fan of the International Pathway Program for the NFL since my days at the XFL, almost 10 years ago now. Crazy. Because I think it's really important. I think there's plenty of talent there, and I think football's hard to learn and develop. We've seen that, but not impossible. And I think All-Star games are a great opportunity for, at the very least, to have these guys observe practice and see how this really goes and move forward. But also give these guys a chance to say, hey, I know he's going to probably struggle in some reps, but one or two good reps is really impressive. Uar Bernard, who got drafted this year, right? Like NFL teams if they just saw a day of All-Star game practice, see how he fits, it could have made a huge difference in how early he gets picked, right? Because you're like, all right, he doesn't look that much like a fish out of water. So
Right.
I've advocated for it. I've asked for it. I've asked for, our event to be either exclusive or a part of that. And I hope the NFL League office will continue to kind of hear that, because I think that international is coming. It's, we've got 1,000 players on our watch list. We've got more guys. We got 7,000 guys written up. We can't go be watching, international games either. Or my buddy Mark Gilguerin, who I think you've talked to in the past at the International Pathway Program, used to work for me. Like he's watching, track and field on dirt fields for these guys as well too. So we can't be watching that. But I'd love to have a couple guys sprinkled in, similar to the Canada approach too, to see how these guys fit. And maybe for as crazy as the Uar Bernard story was, maybe we underrated him. Maybe a different process. He goes in the third, fourth round because he's so talented. And I think it's a great program, and I hope we can be a part of it.
Yeah, well, Mark, a true grinder. We got him on the schedule early September. As again, he's doing the work. He's talking these international guys. He has a great pulse on it, and again is doing great work out there. And again, we talk about guys that move up in the process. Well, Eric, last year as we sat here, the 2026 quarterback class was going to be the greatest quarterback class ever.
Yep,
didn't quite work out. You've got over 50 quarterbacks on this top 1,000. Again, looking like a really good quarterback class again, but again, a lot of football yet to be played. Talk about this quarterback group. Again, tempering expectations, a lot of talent, a lot of really exciting names, a lot of football left to be played. Talk about quarterbacks.
I would probably wager of those 50 quarterbacks, 40 of them can go back to school for a fifth year, right? And I think that's what happened this past year, and it might happen again. Because I think for players, we see the dollar amounts, right? Like Ty Simpson would be based on his Rams salary, he'd be the 10th highest paid college quarterback this year. So even for first round picks, it's not necessarily financially worth it. I think it's a good thing as well for players. It's saying, hey, you don't have to rush out there, right? All expectations be Darian Mensah from Miami will have a great year, go to the NFL. But if he's not necessarily feeling that kind of way, he can go back to school for the year as well too. I think that's a great problem for players, and a challenge for all-star games to figure out who that might be in NFL teams too. I think one of the benefits of these quarterbacks staying longer, transferring, and going to better situations is we should have a much clearer idea of who these guys are. Scouting's hard, especially a quarterback, no doubt, but the more these guys play and the longer they play, you feel much more comfortable about who these guys are, and the guys that maybe will struggle reveal themselves much earlier, right? Ty Simpson's a huge exception to that story, but most of the quarterbacks we're looking at on the Shrine Bowl list right now are guys that have played 2-3 seasons. I can tell you right now, looking at our big board, at least 12 guys that could be eligible for the Shriner Children's West Bowl, we would take in a heartbeat. And we can't take 12 quarterbacks, right? So it's that good of a year of like, there are a lot of guys coming in the year that are really good, that are really impressive. 4 or 5 of those guys might be top 3 overall picks and decline. Hopefully they don't, but hopefully they'll be there as well. But I think it's going to be a lot of who the best quarterbacks in the draft versus the All-Star games will be different. Last year our event had the top quarterback from an All-Star game, Cade Klubnik. He was the first quarterback that went to any All-Star game that was drafted. 2 years ago, that almost was Shedeur Sanders, if not for kind of a funky draft night. And this year, we expect to have the best quarterbacks at our event this year too, from an All-Star game too. But it's a loaded quarterback class. Outside of 2 or 3 guys, most of them can go back to school, and we'll kind of figure out as we go along here too. But I think it's justifiably a really strong quarterback class overall. And guys like the two guys that can be confident are coming out are Brennan Sorsby and Trinidad Chambliss. And both those guys were invited a year ago. If they came out, both those guys are, in my experience talking to them, good people, good quarterbacks that teams have a lot of questions about to answer for the future. And I expect both those guys to be, invited to the East-West Shrine Bowl, Shriner Children's East-West Bowl this year as well in Dallas, and hopefully we have them down there.
Yeah. Well, again, all these 40-some quarterbacks, and again, the big names that get talked about all the time: Arch Manning, Lenora Sellers. Again, you get C.J. Carr. You get the Mestamaker kid at Oklahoma State. Is there maybe one of you? You've got some smaller school. You've got a South Dakota State quarterback, Chase Mason. You've got Steve Angeli at Syracuse. Is there one of these maybe under the radar? Again, we'll harken back to a Brock Purdy type name in this quarterback group that is under the radar now, but has all the makings to be, hey, in 4 or 5 years, this is going to be a solid starting NFL quarterback.
I think I'm always curious to watch early in the season the quarterbacks that are transferring with, maybe they have another year after this, but kind of like they're transferring for their final year, right? Some guys that jump out, Bynum Brown from South Florida to Auburn, same offense with Alex Golish, uber talented player. He's working with a good friend of mine, Jordan Palmer, this offseason, who's raved about how he's developed as a passer as well, too. Like, he looks like Cam Newton out there running the ball. I think he developed as a quarterback at Auburn to have a great year. I'm intrigued to watch him. Jaden Craig from FCS Harvard to TCU. Great person, really smart, obviously, fits the stereotype of a Harvard transfer. But TCU is relying on him to be a big quarterback this year and really lead their offense in a fairly young skill group. Rocco Becht, speaking of Brock Purdy, right? Transferred to Iowa State to Penn State under Matt Campbell. Has a lot of Brock Purdy-isms, right? Started 4 seasons in college. Not the biggest strong arm guy. Has connections. His family had played in I think, baseball for Brock Purdy. For Rocco, his dad played in the NFL. So some obvious parallels there as well, too. And then Ty Pennington from Northern Arizona, a really good FCS quarterback people are excited about. So I think those are the kind of guys that right now aren't being talked about in the quarterback class because there's so many good quarterbacks at the top that could go back to school. My money is that a heavy majority of the people we're talking about right now for the 2027 NFL draft at quarterback are going to go back to school. It's going to be another, hey, no, the guys are going to be there for sure, but don't be surprised if a really, really good quarterback who may be a first-round pick says, you know what, I'll go make $10 million next year at quarterback to stay in school. That could very well be the case as well, too. So those names I just said, maybe guys to not sleep on right now because they may be down the list now for NFL teams, but come December, January, they'll be back at the top of the board.
Yeah, well, make sure you check out that top 1,000 list, shrinersbowl.com. Again, you can find it on there. I'm sure you can find it on Eric's Twitter at Eric Galko. Edges. Again, you go from quarterbacks, you go to edges, O-line, wide receivers, another big edge group. We're seeing those guys make a lot of money. Again, it's probably going to be a similar conversation. A bunch of these guys are going to have the opportunity to go back, make money at the arguably second premier position. Again, wide receivers are certainly moving up there. These edges, another really good group. Talk about, again, kind of in that same vein, under the radar, or again, these guys that have to come out 5th year, 6th year at this point, some of these guys that you like in this edge group.
Yeah, a couple guys from a year ago looking at our board. Clev Lubin at Louisville stayed another year. I think it's his 5th or 6th year. Kenyatta Jackson Jr., Anto Saka, all these guys were in the mix for us a year ago. And I think those guys that you have back-to-back years as an athletic edge rusher, it's really hard for NFL teams to pass on those guys. Because as you guys know, even if you're a 3rd edge rusher for a team, that's still worth a top 2-round draft pick. I mean, those guys are really hard to find. Heck, Malachi Lawrence, he's going to be the 3rd edge rusher for the Cowboys, and they need him to be successful. And he was a 1st-round pick for them as a rookie. So I think for a lot of those guys that stayed in school, hey, 2 really good years. Anthony Smith at Minnesota, Quincy Rhodes at Arkansas, all these kind of guys could really vault up again with another strong year. I'm always curious. I love my guys at Texas Tech, Joey McGuire, James Blanchard, their GM. They've got a great coach as well. They had Mello Height and David Bailey a year ago. This year they've got Trey White and Adam Trick, as well as more D tackles, AJ Holmes, Mateen Ambrosia from Wake Forest, like another great foursome on the defensive line. And I'm always amazed at schools like Texas Tech that because they can really get the best guys in the transfer portal, they're willing to change their defense every year and adjust to the talent, right? David Bailey, Mello Height, Lee Hunter are different than the 4 guys I mentioned they have this year as well, too. So seeing how these defensive fronts and the players that play them are able to change schematically, because most NFL teams are between nickel and base could be 3 and 4 front differences, right? So seeing how these guys can adapt transfer-wise to new schemes and, of course, play within a new system in college is really, really valuable for us too. But you're right, edge rusher, one of the strongest position groups this year outside of quarterback, I think.
Yeah, certainly. Let's flip it over to the other side of the trenches. Again, last year we saw a little bit of a shortage of really top end. Not that it was a bad O-line group, but it was like, all right, well, again, a big mix. Maybe the most talented guy is playing guard for the Dolphins now, but again, just had a lot of questions as a tackle. Again, this year, could be some really high-end guys. Now, again, have to go out and prove it. We'll say that till we're blue in the face. But again, another O-line group that could be really talented. Any of these guys you're really excited about?
Yeah, it's a really strong group. Thank goodness Trevor Gooseby at Texas is healthy. He's going to be a guy that could be, who knows, a top 10 pick when it's all said and done. But I think this year's class feels I think, safer in the top half. Last year, a couple tackles emerged. Some teams had very different grades on certain guys. Certainly those guys get pushed up as a premium position and what was considered for some NFL teams like not the strongest draft class. And maybe some of those guys would have been second round picks in other years. But I think this year's draft class will have no shortage of tackles who are worth first round grades. The guys like Carter Smith from Indiana, Trevor Locke from Iowa. I mentioned Gooseby already too. Nicky Prongos from Stanford, all really good players. And some guys that we're excited to see kind of emerge this year when healthy, whether it's Jakaris Peak when he's back to health. Ohio State's done a great job developing offensive linemen over the years. So I think it's a really, really strong offensive tackle class. That alongside quarterback is probably the heaviest position at the top for us that like, hey, if we had to invite players to the East-West Bowl right now, it'd be too many offensive tackles that we feel already really good about, which is, I think, a good sign of a strong position group is that we have such a high floor level of players at that position. So tackle, along with edge rusher and quarterback, will be the three strongest groups this year, at least coming into the season. We'll see how these guys play.
Yeah, and again, those are great ones to have, edge rushers against tackles. If you want to elevate some stock, go and look really good against some of the other top rushers in the country. And again, the final spot before we kind of flip it to defense, wide receiver. Again, may be the consensus number one player on most teams' board right now, Jeremiah Smith. Again, he could go back to Ohio State. I don't think he will, but again, another really good group. We're seeing wide receivers get taken higher. You've got to have 3 top-end starters in the NFL. Another good group. Again, Cam Coleman going to Texas. Of course, Jeremiah, Ohio State has a few. What about this wide receiver group?
Yeah, I don't expect Jeremiah Smith to be down there in Dallas at AT&T Stadium. If he wants to come, we're more than happy to have him. He's got an invite waiting to go whenever it's time, but I think he's probably going to be just fine for the draft process himself too. But I think receiver is a bit more, at least in our opinion, a bit more open. And we're really excited to see how some of these guys that have transferred, whether it's the Cooper Barcade and Darian Mensah in Miami, Isaiah Horton transferring, some guys coming back from either injury or a change in offense, some guys like Juice Robinson and Nick Harbor who kind of really want big years and have a lot of talent. Let's see if they can really emerge this year. And a couple guys that I think based off of what we know from NFL teams, we disagree with right now, and that there's some really intriguing slot Z receivers that I think people are underappreciating right now as well across the country. So it's not as strong as it has been in years past in terms of the depth of those kind of second, third round NFL starter level grades, but there is a lot of talent around the country. A couple guys who made really, I think, smart transfers to be bigger focuses of their offense, and it's a position group that we've got the most. On our big board of blue is like a let's watch early in the season what's going on. I think we have a lot of guys in that tier as well. They'll be watching that position very closely early on.
Yeah, certainly. Eric, last week we talked about a couple of these guys on the defensive side of the ball that are not quite safeties, not quite linebackers. They're really good football players. And again, we're looking, the state of college football and in some ways the state of pro football, you've got to have some of these nickel type linebackers.
Yep.
Again, we're going to have another crop of those where, hey, good footballs, where do we play them? Again, are there some guys, are we going to have the Harold Perkins conversations again this year where like, all right, hey, we want you to come down. We have some teams that want you here. This is where you're comfortable. Where do we stick you? Is that going to be in the conversation again?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I was always surprised by Harold Perkins. I know he didn't really hit the ceiling people thought he might hit as a freshman, but apparently talking to people in Atlanta, he's crushing in camp right now. He might be their starter week 1. I mean, he's really, really impressive and kind of a unique player as well, too. And there's always a thing you want to protect players from themselves sometimes, and I want to do everything, and then a player looks mediocre at a lot of spots, and teams don't want to play him. That wasn't Harold, but sometimes it happens in the draft process. I think it's something we played by ear. I actually think this off-ball linebacker class, by example, is pretty straightforward this year. There's a lot of really good players who are that 6'1", 230, 240 as well. But NFL teams, we saw starting about 4 or 5 years ago with the drafting of nickel corners only in the second round, and we're seeing more sub-package guys get taken earlier. I think NFL teams are more and more open to, hey, can you be truly versatile and play a lot of spots? Are you a neither, a tweener, or both? Right? Neither is you can't play anywhere in the NFL. You're just not the right size for any position. A tweener is a guy between 2 spots, and if you're a both like Harold Perkins was, where you can possibly play Sam, Will, Mike, and strong safety and nickel fronts, that's really valuable. I think we'll see how these guys develop over time too. But I think this year's draft class, based on our opinion, feels top of the list and top to bottom, much more reliable, much less confusing, I think, for NFL teams to start. I think there's way fewer guys who are kind of in between guys and more guys that are straightforward, good linebacker, good safety, but certainly the draft process for guys that can show their versatility.
Yeah.
Eric, you mentioned obviously the game is changing. It's always changing. People, the way teams win, and all those kinds of things. Do you find yourself changing the way y'all look for players to kind of adapt to the changing league as well?
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway we've had the last couple of years, partially from experience doing this and partially from how the NFL is changing. For one is, and it's hard to beat a dead horse, but I do a lot of work on character on the back end of the front of these guys. I think character, it's just because these guys are so mature now coming out of college that like there's really no reason to take bad character kids anymore, right? These guys have agents and managers and have transferred and made big boy decisions early on that like I really don't have a lot of sympathy for teams that draft high character risk guys because you just don't have to. And we do a lot of work on the character on the front end. I think NFL teams doing the same thing and looking for creative ways to do that. I think the other piece is more and more NFL teams have just said either one of two things. We want to take guys that can make our roster and be reliable, right? We saw the Jacksonville Jaguars, my buddy James Gladstone take some heat for that, but I think they're going to have almost every one of their draft picks that's healthy make the roster and contribute. Like there's something to be said for that. The other piece is I think teams in the NFL are way more willing to adapt their scheme based on their personnel than they were before. And I think from our All-Star game method, to some degree, I think about it, but for the most part, I want to invite the best 125 players we can. If that means we have too many tackles versus centers, let's figure that out on game day, right? Too many edge rushers versus defensive ends, right? If we have to have both of our teams be, 4-down teams, great. If we have more 3-down, 4 linebacker, great too. I think NFL teams appreciate that, like, hey, you know what? We got to get 46 really good players for week 1 in the NFL. And if that means we have too many D tackles, we'll play more 4-man front. So I think for me, the character piece, finding guys that can fill specific roles at a high level. Caden Wetchen for us at Iowa, best returner that most people have seen since Devin Hester, clear role for NFL teams. And then, hey, if we take more D tackles than previous years, great, so be it. It's a good class. If we take less, same idea too. So maybe be more flexible to how NFL teams approach their roster building.
Yeah. I think everybody would be fine. If you have a good crop of 3 techs to get after it, again, I think everybody's always going to be happy finding a few of those guys. So outside those positions, Eric, is there a spot, corner,
Long
safety,
snapper. No.
long snappers, beautiful. Bring the specialists into it, kickers, punters. Is there a group that, man, I'm really excited about this? Tight ends, Trades Green is really fun to watch. Is there a position and name some guys like, hey, you'll buckle up for this guy?
I will say, I'll give a shout out to Rand Carthon. Last year for CBS, we did our roster preview, and he spent about 30 minutes going over our specialists because he did the work too. So much respect for the specialists. We spend a lot of time on those. People don't care, but we care about the specialists quite a bit. Outside of those, I'm really excited about this tight end class, and excited from a scout standpoint in that it's not as top heavy as we've seen in the past. It's not going to be a class I think are slamming through the door. Look at all these great players, but I think we've seen pretty quickly college teams and the best players for NFL teams being the guys that can block, that can be those 11 personnel or 12 personnel tight ends. And I think NFL teams have aggressively, we saw it last year with the Jaguars and who they took, but a lot of teams right after them took guys that can block. And I think we're changing really, really quickly on who can be the guys that can be really good blockers and 11 personnel, 12 personnel type players. Ben Brahmer at Penn State, former Iowa State's a guy that jumps out. I mean, name some names. He's one that jumps out as well too. But even guys like down the list a little bit for NFL teams that may think that guy's a late round pick, but we saw how early Will Merrick goes or those blocker first kind of players and guys like Alex Honig from Northwestern, for example. Again, maybe a guy that some people don't think is a slam dunk top 4-round pick. It's a really good blocker, and that's a really big value for him as well too. A lot of guys like that I'm really intrigued by, and I think tight end's a position the most that's changed just in the last 2 years and how teams are evaluating it. I think this tight end class is a bit at an inflection point of hey, if you're a really good pass catcher in space guy, are you being devalued pretty quickly? And then the other side of that, the really good blocker is being aggressively overvalued right now too. So from a scout nerd standpoint, that gets me really intrigued by how the draft may go 9 months from now.
Yeah. Well, again, it's always good to have a good mix of scout and nerd because, again, you can marry the data, the analytics, the film. Again, the right teams are doing it. Eric, you guys are doing it a lot down there. Again, big part of your process is that, hey, the more information we have, the puzzle has just added a few more pieces, adjusted. Has it changed as we've had more?
Oh, absolutely. Data? I mean, I think the more you talk about, in my opinion, in my experience with NFL teams, the more you talk about analytics part of the process, it kind of tells me that maybe it's not part of your process, right? Like it's integral to what we're doing. We don't think about it, right? Like you talk to people in finance, they don't talk about using analytical models. They're just doing what their job is, right? And for us, we've got not only have data, but we have the processes built in that our staff can do these things really efficiently. And we take a lot of pride in being not necessarily forward thinking on it, but like not just being performative in what we're doing. We don't have time to, oh, what's this guy's miles per hour? If that's not part of your process, then you're too late, right? Then you're kind of getting bias creating like, hey, I already like this player. Now he has this, and I'm impressed by it as well too. So we use a lot of it. We're really proud of the fact that we launched our analytics competition last year. We had 16 teams compete in front of NFL teams for an analytics similar to the Big Data Bowl, but using Shriners Children's West Bowl data. We'll have that again this year, partnering with Underdog and Sumer Sports. So we're really proud of the fact that how we use all the resources available to us, film, relationships, data, and make that all into one process for sure. And we're excited to have that analytics competition be back this year because it was a huge success. The appreciation NFL teams got for hiring people from that competition was really valuable as well too. And we want to make sure that we can be, as an event, more than just players and practice, players and interviews, but really have a reason for NFL people, media agents, and even fans and people competing have a chance to be beneficial there.
Yeah, no question. Again, the more information, again, that's all we call it data, we call it analytics. The more information you have, film, reps, practice reps, all-star games rep, the more information you have, again, don't get paralyzed by it, but again, it's going to help you make good decisions if you keep it all in perspective and keep that picture, keep that puzzle in the right picture. But Eric, you're at Eric Galko at Shriners Bowl is always tweeting stuff out. Again, we're getting ready for real games. Your scouts getting out on the road, doing podcasts, anything people that are listening here today can be looking forward to with you and all things Shriners is doing.
Yeah, I'll be a bit more active on social in season. Hibernation away from the Twitter sphere is over now with the season starting up as well too. Looks like it's gonna be every Tuesday. Myself and one of our scouts, Mike Renner, also at CBS Sports, we're doing our weekly show where we kind of talk about guys in the previous week that the Shrine Bowl is looking at. Very specific, very pointed. Want people like agents and media to be able to listen in, hear some players, hopefully get some good insights there as well too. So that'll be on Twitter video this year, starting on Tuesday after week 0 and all season long as well too. And hopefully some more cool announcements coming soon. I'm always, as you know, Neil, I'm trying to always add shit every single year. I can't help myself. We added the analytics competition a year ago. We have another big thing we're hoping to announce here in October as well too. But in the meantime, hopefully people get a chance to see what makes the event so great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, it is a good one.
You've done a great job with the game. I've been really, really pleased, and I think I'm certainly not the only one to see the advance. It's really evolved since you took on the game, and I congratulate you on that, man. It's really been fun.
Thank you, man. It's been a great team effort, and I think we're the only All-Star game to have an increase in draft picks every year for the last 5 years. Everyone else has kind of stayed still. So if we're kind of keep moving forward, it's all we can really ask for our staff to do, and appreciate you saying that because it's been a long labor for our staff and our people as Shriners Children. So appreciate that.
Yeah. Sure. Well, it's a labor of love because, again, it's football at the end of the day. It's Shriners Children that you are, again, doing everything to give back to, which is so important. Again, a huge part. Again, hearing the stories. Again, even a tough guy like myself can get choked up seeing those sometimes. And again, you should definitely pay attention. Again, even the draft focused people, the evaluation, again, keep that human element part of it that Shriners Children is. So make sure you're following Eric at Eric Galko. Neil's, of course, at Inside the League. Follow Shriners Bowl at Shriners Bowl, paying attention to everything there. Again, we are almost to real football. We are getting closer to real games in 2026, and that means part of the 2027 process. But Eric, we appreciate you being on. Good luck. Enjoy. Safe fall. Definitely look forward to having you back on.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Agents, before we go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file folder storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now.